Welcome, everyone, to the Go With Your Flow podcast. My name is Erin Ryan, and I find my biggest passion in life is to hold healers from the healer to oracle path to birth their most potent medicine into the world, which is typically through their sacred business. And I'm so excited because today we're going to talk about the oracle's path to wealth, to being richly resourced with Alara Sage. She's known as the Oracle of Wealth, and she helps conscious entrepreneurs transform their energetic blocks into breakthrough wealth by bridging ancient wisdom, quantum mechanics, and business strategy. Her own journey from six-figure success to total loss and profound rebirth uniquely positions her to guide visionary leaders in creating unprecedented wealth alignment. So I know that's a huge part of your story, right? You got to six figures and then you lost it all. Maybe we can open it up there and just your journey with wealth and being the oracle, because those two things are so intimately, intricately connected, as we both know.
Ah, yeah, so much to talk about, isn't there? And I'm so grateful to be here. This has been a couple of months in the making, so I'm excited for this conversation. So thank you for the platform and to the audience as well. Yes, so, the Oracle path is riddled with beautiful initiations, is it not? And I've had so many, and the one that is, really been my most challenging has been the initiation into what came through me as inexhaustible wealth. And this is the new paradigm of wealth that we are meant to really just connect to the flow of creation through us instead of needing to make money and then hoard it or invest it, or this feeling like we have to hang on to it because we don't know what's going to happen. This actual surrender to circulation that is always there. And it's very radical. And it has been radical initiation. So I had a six-figure business in 2021. And really from the outside, it was everything that you could want. I was helping people, I was transforming them. Everything was very easeful. And I had six figures in the bank account. I had a six-figure business. And yet I had this feeling like I needed more. Like I just needed to get some more money. And it was this like incessiveness within me. Simultaneously, I was struggling with the whole idea of money. Are we even allowed to have money in the spiritual community? Because in 2021, there was a lot of conversation like, you shouldn't be charging if you're a spiritual mentor. And I had this push and pull of like, no, I have felt like I was meant to be wealthy since I was a little girl. I had visions of it long before I understood even what that meant. So I had this innate desire, and then I had a lot of shame around that desire. It's wrong. It's superficial. That's not spiritual. It's greedy. And then I had this little voice that was like, it's not enough. It's not enough. You need more. You need more. You're not safe. You're not safe. You're not free. You just need a little bit more and then you'll be, which we know is complete BS. And it led me down a path of initiation where I was being told it's a very long story that I'm not going to go into all of it, but I was told it was going to happen. And that didn't make it any easier. And it definitely didn't stop the process. It's ironic when you know something's going to happen and you can literally witness yourself going through it. And it is. So I was told it was going to happen and I agreed to it. And it happened as a scam, which was also riddled with shame because I always thought I can spot scams. Who would be scammed? But it was through a mentor in crypto that somebody had referred to me, a friend had referred to me. This person had been working with this mentor for years. So a known person, he totally wiped me clean and then deleted all of our conversations. And I watched it happen. I watched my six-figure bank account go to zero. And, I crumbled to the floor, of course, in lots of emotion of grief, of shock, of what the fuck, of like not even necessarily believing that it was happening. And of course, fear, like that was all of my money. And I took a nice deep breath in my body and I thought, you know what, I've got this. I've had this uncanny ability to create whatever I desire since I was a little girl. Like I would envision things and I would just make them happen. And my family and people that knew me always said to me, like, I don't understand how you do it. You always just create what you want. And I didn't know either. I didn't know how I did it. And over the years of teaching, I learned how I did it. So I knew how to create my reality. I've got this. But I wasn't really listening, right? Like I was going through an initiation and I just wanted to solve the problem instead of really sink into the initiation, because in that initiation was a great deal of shame. And I was not ready to, or I was ready, but I didn't want to feel it. And so I was like, you know what, I got this. I'll just make it all back. And I just like, sideswiped my way right around the initiation and tried to make it all back. And that's not how initiations work, as we know. And my business collapsed. And I went from clients and all of that to like literally nothing. Nothing was coming in my door. Nothing was happening. And I went into debt for the first time in my life. And I was like, okay, I obviously am not listening. And it was this journey around my relationship to money and sex and power, ultimately. And deep beliefs in myself that any of that is wrong, that it's bad, that it's sinful, that it's evil, that it's greedy, and this inner push-pull within myself and my highly dysfunctional relationship with money because of it.
So you talked about shame. So how was sex, money, and power, right? Because I've also had that stuff, like they're so intertwined. How did you start to dissect that? And how do you do that? There's kind of two-part question. How did you just start to dissect that for yourself? And then how do you hold other people to that, especially those on the oracular path, leaders, visionaries, healers, mystics?
I mean, it was all internal guidance. When I stopped trying to make it something else, the conversation was there. It was already there. And first, it was what is really going on here, and the belief that I was unworthy of money. And again, the shame. And as soon as I started to connect to the shame around money, I had already connected to shame that I held in my sexual energy, but this just opened up more floodgates of that and desire. And so as soon as I brought my awareness to my body, allowed myself to really be present to what I was denying, it was all very apparent. And I believe very deeply in that, our shadow is where our light is. And yeah, it's really uncomfortable. But if we give presence to it, it unfolds in and of itself. Of course, there's lots of modalities and techniques we can use, but just understanding that to witness yourself, to really be willing to feel and see and listen is all that is truly required.
That's what I
And
found too, is that the willingness, the willingness to be present with our pain and actually feel it safely moves the energy the most out of the body, like above all else. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that.
yeah, and so it's the same with my clients, because sometimes people aren't always aware of, we're very blind to ourselves, right? It's very easy to see from a mentor perspective, somebody else, and we all have our own blind spots. So helping other people to see what it really is that they are avoiding and holding that with them. I'm deeply empathic, so I can feel when people speak, their bodies just light up, their energy just speaks. And I'm sure as you as well, Erin, it's all there, right? So it's so easy to connect as soon as they I mean, they don't have to speak, but it's amazing how their own voice just activates themselves in all these ways. And so, them having a container where they feel safe to feel those things, and particularly like I have come at money, like it has not been easy for me. It has been the opposite of fucking easy. It has been the most challenging thing that I have ever faced, even above sex, which was very, very challenging to me. And I have come at every angle. And, I can't say I know it all because that would be just complete arrogance, but I have really walked the path of fire when it comes to wealth and money. And so when people, show me, or when I see, there's nothing that I haven't already experienced. And that helps them to feel really seen and held by somebody who really deeply gets it. It's not just, yeah, 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 I understand. It's like, oh, I feel you.
I think that's so important. It's the spaces that we hold for others, and I call it like the de-armoring of the heart, so that shame cannot exist in the presence of love, right? And non-judgment. So because we've been through these initiations that have cracked us wide open, we have this humbleness and this kindness and this like truly seeing people for who they are and what they are beyond whatever they're ashamed of. So I find the same with people. It's like it melts them. They can come completely undone where others cannot. Like they cannot hold that kind of space for them. So, and especially around wealth, like the codes around that. And I believe the way that I define an oracle, like the modern day oracle, the way that it's come through my channel is being richly resourced, not just financially, that's part of it, but on all levels, right? Having support, emotional support, spiritual support, physical support, right? All of it, part of it. And I'm sure we both will agree, like true wealth, like you talk about inexhaustible wealth, it's not about the number in the bank account. It's something, like you're the source of creation, right? And so I think it's so beautiful you having been through this experience, this, and like you said, there's no way around but through. Like you cannot bypass the initiations. Like you have to be present, and that is the hardest thing to do when it comes to especially shame or guilt or judgment. But being able to walk that path and actually transform and alchemize it, and then hold space for other people. And like you said, as we are space holders, we also see their blind spots for them too. So I'm sure you find that the process goes way faster when we're allowing ourselves to be held. I know that I've noticed that too.
Absolutely. Yes. And I feel that in your space as well, that non-judgment, that space of love. And it really, when we're in that and we're being held by somebody that we feel that it's very authentic, it unravels us because it's like we can like we can let go of the protection. We can soften. And the minute we start softening, those parts of us that just want that love just come to the surface and receive that love of ourself, in those moments, because when we're held, we open to our own love.
I have a super interesting question for you because we haven't chatted about this before. And I don't know if I've seen it, in your social media content. Some people equate like money and love, and they do connect those things. I connect them insofar as money to me is about receiving, love is about receiving. So it's all about like that softening you just talked about, the opening of the channel, the opening of the body and the heart, specifically the heart too, like so that we can receive. I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on the connection between love and money?
I love seeing money as love because we get to see however we want to see. It's our perspective, and how we perceive our reality is how we experience it. And so, how I teach it is that you're receiving love directly from source, even though the money might be coming from a person. I really like to receive it as love from God, from spirit, from creation itself. And then I also give. When I spend, when I give, it's the same thing. It's I am bringing this love forward in this vessel of money, but this is me giving back to God, source, spirit. And that really changed it for me as well, because for a while, even as I was going through this process, I was still seeing money as maybe something external of love, or definitely energy and all of that. But it took it to like a whole nother level when I said, the universe is literally, this is one of the ways. There's so many ways that we experience love, but this is one of the ways that the universe enjoys expressing its love to me. And how that changes, again, like you said, absolutely the receiving, but also the giving and the spending. And
Yeah.
to me, it's all a process of deepening what I say is the art of wealth, which is the exchange. Life is all about exchanging. And we are exchanging with life, we're exchanging with God. And so money is that very obvious form of exchange for humanity right now. And so it's like, how much can I increase my quality of the game of exchange? Like, I am going to receive this straight from God as love to me, that I am worthy no matter what I've done, no matter who I am. This is just a way that I'm receiving love. And then again, as I give it, it's coming. It's like all parts of me are all in on that giving or spending, recirculating, bringing that back around, and as well as the pause, the holding, the being love, the being the money, the being the negative, excuse me, neutral polarity of the Trinity. So there's three aspects to it. And as we raise our relationship to each aspect of that, we deepen something that you spoke about, the rich life. To live richly is to be deeply engaged with this exchange. That is all we're here to do, is exchange with the universe. And the more we're present, and the more that every little thing matters, right? That we're intentional on how we receive things, that they align to our desires, that we're intentional on how we give and spend, that they align to our values, that everything is coming from that place of authenticity, then we're really upping the entire game. And that circulation, the richness of that circulation, really amplifies and increases.
That's so beautiful. I often, when I talk about money, especially with my clients, because it's a huge part of cultivating wealth as the oracle on all levels. I talk about the breath, right? And it's like, so when you talk about circulation, it kind of brings me back to that. So like the inhale is the receiving the money, the holding, right? Our bodies take it, like we take it in, we, have money and become accustomed to it and integrate it. And then the exhale is the circulation, right? The gifting of money so that we can create that circuit. And so if that breath is smooth, right? It's natural, it's organic, is what you're talking about, then everything opens up through that. But if we say we try to hoard it, right? So we breathe it in, but then we hold our breath, like our bodies are going to turn blue and force us. And then it's a really like unpleasant experience to be in that. Or if we're not willing to receive it, right? Then it's like we're holding our breath to not take in money, to not take in nourishment, to not take in that love. And so that helps me when I get stuck, because I'll get stuck. My clients will get stuck. I'm sure sometimes, you get stuck too, because we're all
Absolutely.
human, right? We're not like the guru's on the mountain, like we're in it. And so it's like I have to remind myself that like this is the natural flow. So I love what you were talking about, where you're saying like this is you receiving, yes, it's through people, but from source, from God, love. And then also when you circulate it, when you spend money, it's you giving back, you gifting. And so creating that. I would love to hear a little bit about, because you mentioned inexhaustible wealth, like how does that show up for you in your body? Like what is the frame of mind that you have? And also when you get stuck, like how do you walk yourself through that when you're maybe, gonna spend something or even receiving, you're trying to up level the amount that you can receive in your business and your life. I know that was kind of multi-part question, but start wherever you want. Start and end wherever you want.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you said about breathing because I teach that as well. And I teach everything per the Trinity because there's three parts to everything. And the breath has three parts too. It's the inhale, the exhale, the pause. There's an actual pause where we're not inhaling or exhaling. And that's the beingness. That's the holding the money. That's the investing. And it's funny because most people don't even recognize that there's a pause. Like their ability to hold love is not aware. They're not aware of their ability to hold love. And so just as you said with the breath, the other thing, inexhaustible wealth is again that circulation. So it's really the truth that when we're not focused on our breath, it's happening. It inhales, it exhales. And as soon as you exhale, the inhale comes naturally. And as soon as you inhale, the exhale goes. And that's really what inexhaustible wealth, that is really our innate state of exchange with divinity, with the Trinity, and with resource. It is so uncomfortable to consider this. And I like to call that out because for the audience, this is something that I am here to bring a movement forward, and I still have to work on myself. There is a deep knowing. The knowing is undeniable that this is who we are. We are here to live the true expression of inexhaustible wealth. But that doesn't mean that I don't have to walk myself down the path of learning what that means in our bodies because we are not accustomed to that level of trust and surrender. I
Yeah,
mean, it goes against everything we teach in finances, does it not?
it does. Well, and it's like I find the way we're conditioned, it's like when we need to lean in, we're told to like disconnect. When we need to lean back, right, we really need to lean in. And so this like juxtaposition happens, and we get into this space where it's like the breath, going back to that, like it's misaligned breath. We can't get a big enough inhale, or we exhale too long, right? And it affects everything, and it creates this disruption in the motion of life, right? So it's like there's these currents that we're all like following. And this podcast is called Go with Your Flow, because it's like there's the flow, the collective, and then there's your frequency. So I find when we use that breath, we talk about like, and I love again the words you use, inexhaustible wealth. When we talk about that, it really gives us like a blueprint, right? Something to that how it can feel, right? And it can be that natural, and we can have it all. Like I truly believe that. And this whole idea of like have your cake and eat it too, like why would you want cake if you can't eat it? It's just like what? Like there's just so much insanity in the world. And it's interesting to me because I feel like oracles, we have to kind of be willing to be a little bit in like be viewed as insane or wild or
Yeah.
crazy, because like what you're bringing forward, what I'm bringing forward, it's so radically different, and it's uncomfortable, and it's confronting. And as oracles, like we are in devotion to our channel, we're in devotion to the codes coming through. So I love that you have really taken up the mantle of being the wealth oracle, because can you imagine? I'm sure you've thought about this many times, like I have. If all of the healers in the world, the mystics, the shamans, the medicine women, like the priestesses, whatever words you want to use, but those of us who are heart-centered and truly want to help shift the planet, like if we were all richly resourced, like what choices would we be making? What shifts? Like I have chills saying that on the planet. So to me, like you talking about wealth, you bringing in sexuality and weaving it all in, like that is some of the most potent medicine that's needed. And now more than ever, because in the current climate, in the US and the administration, like, and not to bring too much of that in, but like a lot of people are afraid. And that includes those, wealth is a huge thing. So I'm grateful that you're here to hold this frequency and to remind people. I'm sure so much of what you do is similar to me, where you're reminding people of who they really are and what's available to them, because we forget in the moment, especially when we're afraid.
Yes. And you and I spoke about this at one point. I don't believe that this is truly, necessarily the state that we are meant to be in an inexhaustible wealth. But I've gone, from having, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank account to having nothing in the bank account, to having 50 grand in the bank account, to having nothing in the bank account, to having $3,000 to nothing in the bank account. And again, I want to express the intense amount of trust and basically faith. Because to me, trust is trusting that it's all going to work out, and faith is that it's absolutely perfect no matter what, right? It's the deep reverence and the deep communion with God, and that there is a higher power, and it's not up to us to try to control it. And really, we can't. Control is an illusion. And this teaching is so radical because we really want to just have lots of money in the bank, because that gives us a sense of security. Like, who doesn't want $1 million in the bank that just always replenishes itself and you never have to, quote unquote, worry about money? But that is not where true security lies. And this is what Inexhaustible Wealth is truly here to teach us, and why it is so radical. Because it's not actually about having millions of dollars. That could very well be an experience of it. It's not to say it's not about having millions of dollars, but it's not about placing our security in cushions of comfort, presuming that that somehow makes us safe and secure. Because I experienced my money going to zero. Having millions of dollars in the bank account doesn't mean anything. People are experiencing right now, and this may trigger people, and I bring this through with absolute love and compassion. People are watching their investments drop. There is no security in anything external of us. So Inexhaustible Wealth wants to teach us that our security lies within, and that deep sense of trust that when my bank account is zero and I have bills to pay, and I open my hands and I say, I am surrendered to you. And this is making me very emotional right now. I'm surrendered to you. Tell me, what do I need to do? And I take action on what I'm told. It comes in, my hands are filled, and I carry forward. And then lots of money comes in. And it's like this whole experience that I continue to be initiated through. And every single time I hit those points of like, I don't know how any of this is going to happen. And that just humility and open hand and listening, and the amount of strength that that has created between me and that inner wisdom. And nothing can take that from me. And that's real security.
Yes, to come out of this insecure, anxious, avoidant attachment with something external like money. I love you're talking about this because so I recently paid my tax and I paid more in taxes, right, than I used to make in a year. And so I'm speaking of like seeing money flying out. I got it flooded in my basement. We got new floors. Like a lot of it was paid for by insurance, a lot of it was not, right? Like I keep saying yes to everything, my sacred yes. And I've been really intentional. If this is, I'm a sacral generator. So if this is a fuck yes in my body, I'm saying yes to it, regardless of how much is in my bank account. Not from an irresponsible place, but
Yes.
a very intentional. You used that word
Yes.
earlier. Thank you. Very intentional space, because part of the oracular path, the way I define it, is like we talked about, being richly resourced on all levels. So as I'm saying yes to things, high ticket things, paying out taxes, it's been an initiation. And I knew I was self-initiating myself because I've decided I'm like, the deeper layers, we're always going deeper, aren't we? The deeper layers of where I have been insecure with money, and I've cleared a lot and healed a lot, but I know there's more because of that. So it's like I'm reconditioning my nervous system to feel safe when the number drops, right? And knowing that, just like the breath, it will come back in. And I think what you said is so pivotal. It's so important, and so many people miss it, which is the part where, let's say you exhale, you circulate a lot of money, your bank account goes low. is the surrender piece, not surrender from a space of like, so you, the way you define it is like just trusting it'll just be okay, right? That's almost like super bypassy,
Mhm.
but from this like deep presence and this deep like I am truly open, like you said, open hands. I love that. Open hands, open heart, open womb. I am here. I am present. I am listening. And then to get the guidance and then to follow the guidance. And this has been a huge revelation for me personally in my money wealth journey is trusting or having faith, whichever, word we want to use, but when it comes in, when I am an open and I get the downloads and then they're like, I'll hear it in my mind, I have different senses and I know you do too, but of what to do next. But there's a different quality, right? I call it like true self intuition versus trauma intuition. Like trauma intuition is like that reactivity, right? Like I've noticed a lot of oracles and healers create from adrenaline, not once you're full on oracle, but if you're like wounded healer, conscious healer, even into priestess through my lens, like creation from adrenaline is very different than creation from this being self-resourced, being truly connected to your channel, to your divinity, to your medicine, to the potency and of you and your receiving. So that ability to listen and to hear what I call your siren song, which is your frequency, right? It's just for you. And then be moved, like inspired. To me, it's like action based on inspiration rather than desperation. Like that has changed my life and continues to. And so I love that we're having this conversation. It's just so potent.
Yes. And everything you said, and what you were saying before, that you're teaching, your flow, because I really see Inexhaustible Wealth is absolutely 100% unique to us. Your flow is unique to you, and it will only happen. You will only deeply be connected to that, what that flow is, through your own inner wisdom. Yes, we can receive mentorship, we can receive coaching, we can receive other people's strategies, but it all has to come through our own filter. And so there's a difference between receiving things like, okay, this is interesting, and I'm going to receive it as I'm learning. I'm bringing in information. And then as we bring in information, we can open up creative portals in our own self. And then the intuition will say, this is for you, or take this and tweak it and mold it and transform it. And now this is what your way is. And this is 100% how Inexhaustible Wealth. It is not following somebody else's path, somebody else's strategy, listening to somebody else tell you how you should do any of it. The only way Inexhaustible Wealth is truly experienced is through that inner guidance. And that's challenging because we have all had the guidance, we have all not listened, right? Because it's like the mind comes in, or like you said, the wounding comes in, or somebody else comes in, right? And we take all of that information as more valuable than that inner wisdom, because that teaching goes so deep as to distrust it, right? So really having to learn to trust that. But what I like to always say is, Mother Gaia is the resource, right? She provides all resource for humanity, all of it, right? And she's never without resource. We love to try to pretend that she is. We love to point out the lack, but Mother Gaia is always transferring. So, when there's drought in one area, there's flooding in another area. So, yeah, if you're hanging out in the drought area and you're hanging on to that area and you're saying, where's the water? Yeah, you're going to struggle, right? But if you say, okay, hands are open, heart is open, where is the water? Show me, I will go there, right? The devotional path of show me and I will take action. You will be shown the water, and things are even outside of like drought and that kind of conversation. I also love to bring in seasons, like the apple tree. The apple tree doesn't just produce apples all the time. No, it has a season. And so we get so stuck, we get so connected and attached to something, and we want it just to keep producing fruit. And that is not the way that energy moves. Energy moves, right? It flows. Even the riverbed shifts and changes, everything alters course. And we have had to store away in the past, because we haven't been in communion with resource and the flow of resource. And the new era is that we don't have to do that anymore as we deepen this communion and understand it's simply the question of where is the wealth? Show me, help me align to that, because that is also always in a place of service. When you are naturally connected to your flow of wealth, of resource, you are always available to serve the higher good of all.
Like literally everything you're saying, it's like honey. It's like honey to me. It's like, yes, yes. And I love how you put that. It's like one area is in drought, but if you are connected, if you're in communion, if you're listening, if you're actually right able to receive the information, you will know, oh, I need to move, and you'll be able to follow those energy flows. And I think that's why it can be very difficult is we're not listening, we're not trusting, we're not picking up on the cues. When you were talking, I just kept getting like when birds fly south for the winter. Like nobody's telling them to do that. It's their innate instinct and they're connected to it, right? And so it's like, I feel it's very much so similar for me. And when I look at the wealth, so last year was the most money I've ever made in my business. Like every year, it's just more and more, even though I have small children and even though things are, life is happening. And when I looked at it, it's like, what did I do there? And it was nobody could have told me to create what I created. The Dragon Diamond Light Body, those were codes that came directly to me. Five Element Dragon Fire Reiki, like that's the same thing. Dragon Oracle, which my year-long mastermind for healers birthing, right? Priestesses and oracles birthing their next most potent offer and in their medicine. It's about the medicine. None of that could have come from anybody else. It was self-resourced. But there was an initiation. I had to go, is this real? Am I crazy? Right? Am I whatever? And because I've been through that process so many times before, I have a skill set. And I'm sure you can agree, this is a skill set that can be taught and learned. It's a complex one. It's simple in nature, but complex to do because of our conditioning. But as I was able to do that, I was able to see, like, no, I feel this in my body. I know this is where I'm meant to go because I feel electrified. I feel turned on, and not the turn on of like superficial things, but the full body, right? Every cell in my being is telling me this, move forward with this. And when we can turn down, right, the volumes of all of these distortions, all of these distractions from that communion within, then we can hear it and then we can follow it. And I feel like that's so much of what this devotional path is about is learning and discerning which voices, which information do I need to turn down and what do I need to turn up and where do I need to lean in and where do I need to lean back. So I just love this, all of this. It's like pure gold, pure gold. Thank you.
Yes. And I teach three different things with this concept. One of them is, quantum mechanics, the truth that you're already, right? You're already the version of you that is completely self-resourced, exists within you now. And so as we remember that, like it just takes a moment to remember, like, oh, I am already this. And how would he or she create? What would he or she do? How would he or she respond to this massive bill that just came in that I'm kind of like swallowing and like it's hitting me? I can respond from the part of me that believes in lack, or I can respond from the part of me that actually is embodied in an inexhaustible wealth. So really understanding that it's already here within us. This isn't something that we have to chase or do or try to get outside of us. It exists here now. And the more that we connect to that version, that's like what you were saying before. It's about being delusional. It's about being crazy. It's about saying, this is who I am. 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 And I have so much, and this is going to sound totally weird, but just hear me out on this. I have so much respect for like the current crazy, insane, so many things president, and I don't have lots of respect for him, but the one thing I have respect for him is his conviction. The whole world is collapsing. People are hating him. He is causing so much pain, but his inner conviction is insane. Totalitarians
Yeah,
have
it's
incredible
pretty,
conviction. not saying that they're good people or that they use that
Right.
conviction for good things. That's not what I'm saying. But I can respect that they don't let any of the outside noise affect them. It's the same as with geniuses. The great geniuses, the great creators of humanity have all been insane, delirious. They insist. Well, everybody tells them, the Wright brothers, you can't fly. This is not possible. This is and fail, and they fail, and they fail, and they just sit there and they say, I have to just believe so crazily in this. And
Yeah.
that is what we have to do. And so
Yeah.
really that is part of the quantum mechanics, is holding that conviction and that subtle delusion. It doesn't mean that you don't address what is in your current reality, right? It
Right.
doesn't mean that you go
Still
and spend
grounded.
money that you don't have. That's not what I'm saying, but you embody the version of you that is that already, and you insist on that frequency over and over and over again. And then another point that you mentioned was that aliveness. I teach what's called the wealth kink, because it's very important that we are lit in life,
Yeah.
that we are lit. And wealth comes to us when our fields are open. And that is when we are connected to what lights us up. And it sounds like something that's easy, but ironically enough, I have this capacity of feeling it in people. And so when I say, well, what lights you up? People spew off these things and they enjoy all of those things, but they do not light them up. And they'll go through this list and then they'll say something and they almost like brush it to the side. I'm like, that lit you up. And they're like, yeah, I know, and but immediately all the creative life force energy flows. Their field expands, right? And so when we give ourselves permission to live our aliveness, our fields are open and we are able to allow energy to flow through us. And then the last one is the strategy. It is the how, but that doesn't come from our minds or from somebody else. That comes from that inner knowing. And bringing all of these three together is a really potent process to embodying and creating this very rebellious way of living in inexhaustible wealth.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, and it's like that's the baby, like the Holy Trinity. The strategy comes after. And I find strategy, yes, we can take in strategy from other people. It gives us something to think about, and then that's fine to think about things, but it can't be the source point. It has to be the natural expression. The strategy is the expression that aligns with you of your medicine, of your potency. And, what you're talking about, that aliveness, that's what I created my business from, is the aliveness. And I didn't know it was instinctual, but that's why I've been in business for 10 years. That's why I'm successful and continue to be successful, is because I keep my finger on the pulse. I prioritize what is
Yes.
alive for me. And so I usually sell out programs or they do really well. And the times that they don't do well, if I zoom out and I look back, I'm like, was that really alive for you? Was that your medicine? The way I say it is, was that your medicine? Is that really what you're initiating yourself into? And it's really, you call it that the kink. I love that. But like that turn on, right? That electricity. And I will 100% say, no, I did it because I thought I should. Like I remember I relaunched this program. Was around Valentine's Day. It was a relationship program from a long time ago that I created. And I mean, that program was wildly successful. It was why and how I got to my first 10K cash month. So I know it's potent. I went to re-release it, whatever I do around Valentine's Day because my brain was like, oh, this makes sense, right? Valentine's Day, relationships. And it did not sell at all. I pulled it out. Like I was like, this isn't what is happening. And I was like, Erin, that's not your medicine. Like that's not what you're here to do right now. So our ability to ride the waves, our ability to stay connected in relaxed, right, safe, secure connection to that current, that's everything. And when we prioritize that, like you said, then we move from drought to where the water is. So it's just beautiful.
Yes. Yes. And I'm a manifesting generator and I'm a line 3 in human design. And I am a shapeshifter. I like to have multiple things going on. And what happens for me is, and this wants to come through for somebody, I'll get that intuitive hit of that aliveness of like, okay, this wants to be created. And just like you said, like every single cell of your being is like igniting and it feels so good. And then I, in the past, have really like, okay, I want to like get it all done. I want to create it. And that is not how creation usually works. And my process of learning that creation will insist that it be created how it wants to be created and when it wants to be created, and that how that entire process looks, and that, like, we are not in control of that. So if I want to create it in 2 weeks, it's not up to me. It may happen, it may not. And the more I am really with the process of, like, really surrendered into, okay, show me how this wants to be created and the pieces, and letting it all come together, and points where it kind of feels like, is anything happening? That stillness, that pause where so much is happening, but it appears like nothing's happening. And then, okay, now the next thing came through, and having again that deep trust in that process. Because just as you said, I've watched myself push things. Okay, this comes in. All right, let's just go. And I push it, and then it lands flat. And I go, why did it land flat? And the intuition says, because you got lit by it, and then you grabbed control of it, took over, and just got her done. You just had the sex, right? You just hit orgasm, and then it was
Yeah.
over. Instead of like, like being with the creation and letting yourself, like, be in the pleasure and the aliveness of the creation, and letting it show you, teach me, initiate me through the process, rather than like, okay, I got you, I'll just now do it. It's night and day. And it's night and day in how it affects my numbers and people signing up and the success of it, all of it. And even like the actual transformational energy that comes through the program.
Yeah, like 100% everything you said, yes, yes. I look at it as our medicine, our programs are alive. They have their own consciousness. And so and I also talk about, like, when we go to a theme park and we get on a ride, you're not getting on the ride for the end. You're getting on the ride for the experience of being on the ride. So that's what you're talking about, is like to not try, again, not to try to rush it out, like just rush to the finish line and go, no, the experience of this, that's the medicine, that's the initiation, that's the turn on, that's the transformation. And then we can invite other people into that process. And I look at it like a garden, right? Sometimes we intentionally plant something. Sometimes we don't know what we're going to plant. We're like, wow, look at this cool seed I found when I was foraging, and I plant it. Let's see what it is. Sometimes you know exactly what it is. I've had programs come in, and like an hour or two later, they're out and people are
Mhm.
signing up. Like that's how fast
Yes.
it can be. I've had things, I'm sure you have too, where it's literally taken years. And you talked about, like, they have to evolve it and you have to massage it and you have to mature yourself and really become the person who can hold that container. And so it's like a garden, you have all different things happening at different rates and different seasons and different times. And so if we can enjoy that, you talked about the art of wealth, that art form, because it's an art is about expression, it's about creation. Like, it's just, the process can be so much more pleasurable, just the act of doing it. So I think that it's an incredible way to be and to show up in the world. And then nothing feels like work. It doesn't mean that there's not effort, right? It doesn't mean, in fact, it's very challenging to walk this path. It's more challenging than I think most things, because of that de-armoring of the heart, because we're leaning into our edge. Oracles, we live in our edge most of the time. We're leaders. We're the leaders for the leaders. So I just think that the whole process is so magical and challenging at the same time.
So challenging, and yet not like a struggle. And they're very different, aren't they? Vibrationally, they feel different in the body. And we can get excited about challenge. And I love how you say the edge, because that just made me realize how, like, oracles are kinky, because we really love that edge. We really love that point of nobody's doing this. And not because we want to be the ones doing it, but it's just like, nobody's doing this. You're kind of here alone. Yeah, there are other oracles that may be speaking about this, but for the most part, we're really, really out there alone. And it's edgy, and the things that we speak to, the information that wants to come through us, it sometimes, I don't know about you, Erin, but I have to, like, literally, like, open the mouth, let it come out, because it's so controversial. And it hits people all different ways. And that's not up to us. And it's such a beautiful path, and it is righteously challenging. but it is that fire, that the challenge, the friction, the heat of that space, that edge that transforms us, right? And allows us to help others walk that fire as well. That is, you just can't help but feel so honored.
Yes. Oh, and I'm so excited you talked about the fire because, I talk about oracles walking the diamond path, and diamonds are formed in the womb, the mantle of the earth, under intense heat and pressure over an extended period of time. But then once they're formed, like I'm super geeky about this, like the carbon atoms, instead of them being chain three, they get squeezed so much that the bond changes and now it's four carbon. And I'm like, wow. And then that diamond, right? If you take a diamond out of the earth, like it's clear instead of coal, carbon, right, dark, right? Absorbs light. Now it's clear. It can refract light. It can amplify light. It is able to, the metaphor is we're able to hold more and more divine truth and more light. And so, and we're virtually indestructible. The only thing that's hard enough to cut a diamond is another diamond. It's the most naturally hard, occurring thing on the planet. So this is the path though, and you can't bypass this path. And so if you can lean into the edge, recognize it's your kink, right? Like really, really enjoy that process and savor it, kind of like eating food, like just don't rush, right? Like slow down, taste it, like engage your senses. And we're co-creating with all, God, Gaia, right? Our highest self, other human beings, ascended masters, archangels, whatever your flavor is. It's this beautiful co-creative event, and that's the medicine. So I have just so enjoyed having you. Like every single second of this has been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for being here. How can, well, first of all, do you have any final thoughts you want to say? And then I'd love for you to just quickly say, and we'll also put it in the description for this podcast, how people can reach you.
Yes, and I would love to drop the link for the wealth kink because it's really
Sure.
pretty extraordinary for all of us to recognize. And it's very validating. If you've been on this path, you'll be very validated in where that aliveness is for you. And just understanding that, living our aliveness is not another task to click off. When I first started connecting to playfulness, I was like, okay, now I need to play every day, which is like the total misunderstanding of playfulness, right? Like it's not like a task. And this is the same with aliveness. It's not a task. It's a way of living, right? It's how we incorporate it into our life. It's just so transformational for people just to have that reflection back to them. And again, as you live that aliveness, it really opens up your field, which gives you more access to creativity, gives you more access to the conversation and the flow of wealth. And it really gives you more access to that inner wisdom because you're in an expanded state rather than a contracted state, even though both have value and we need both of them and they're beautiful. But living our aliveness does absolutely give way to creating more wealth for ourselves.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And then, yeah, how can people find you? Do you website, Facebook, Instagram? Do you want to just throw a couple of those out? And then, of course, I'll put everything in the description as well for people to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. alarasage.com is my website. And then I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, all Alara Sage. So very easy.
Well, that's incredibly easy, and it's Alara Sage.
Yes.
So thank you so much. I'd love to do this again sometime. You're
Absolutely.
incredible. I love watching
Same.
you and staying connected with you. So we will chat again. Yay, take care.
Okay.
Amazing. All right, thank you. See everyone later.